Not only historians studied Hitler's biography, psychologists were equally interested in understanding his personality. It is believed that childhood traumas and complexes acquired within the family have a lasting impact on one's entire life. It is hard to disagree with this, especially when you know in which particular family all the horrors of the Third Reich originated. Hitler himself didn't like to talk about his family lineage, especially on his paternal side. Hitler's father, Adolf Hitler, was an illegitimate child of a simple peasant woman. The true identity of Hitler's grandfather is unknown. That's why there are numerous disputes and speculations regarding the possible Jewish ancestry of Adolf Hitler. According to one version, Adolf Hitler was born to a wealthy Jewish man. Hitler's mother worked as a cook for him. The most likely version is that Adolf Hitler's father was a farmer named Johann Nepomuk Hitler, whose surname was later distorted due to a notary's mistake. Adolf Hitler carried his mother's surname, Schicklgruber, and remained illegitimate until the age of 39. In 1876, he found 3 witnesses who confirmed he was the son of farmer Johann Nepomuk. This allowed him to change his surname to Hitler. By doing so, he escaped the shame of being illegitimate, which had affected him throughout his life. Adolf Hitler tried to compensate for this by achieving success of his career. He progressed from being a shoemaker's apprentice to becoming a senior customs official. But when it came to his personal life, things were not so simple. For the first time, Alois got married at the age of 36, for practical reasons. He married 50-year-old Anna Glassel-Hörer, the daughter of his colleague from the customs service. After a few years, their marriage fell apart. Alois started an affair with a 19-year-old maid, Franziska Metzelsberger, and his wife demanded a divorce. Soon Franziska became pregnant and gave birth to a child. Alois had to marry his former maid, who was also 24 years younger than him. The couple had another child, but unfortunately, the young wife fell ill and died from tuberculosis. When Franziska fell ill, a young maid named Clara Peltz came to the house. She had previously helped Alois with household chores. Franziska passed away, and exactly 9 months later, Clara gave birth to a child from Alois. Clara and Alois got married while she was pregnant. Moreover, Adolf Hitler had to seek permission for the marriage from the Vatican. The reason was the 25-year-old Clara Peltz was the paternal cousin of 48-year-old Adolf Hitler. The local church did not grant permission for the marriage of Alois and Clara, as they were considered close relatives. It is known that the couple sent multiple requests for the Vatican before they were granted permission to wed. They had 6 children in their marriage, one of whom was Adolf Hitler. Only the youngest of the children, Paula Hitler, lived to a respectable age. 2 children died from diphtheria in infancy, 1 child perished from smallpox at the age of 6, and another child was born with hydrocephalus and survived only 6 days after birth. The early deaths of the children are not surprising, considering that the Hitler couple's marriage involved blood mixing, despite the church's formal approval. Naturally, Adolf Hitler tried to hide the fact of blood mixing in his family throughout his life. According to biographers, Hitler also did not aspire to have his own children because he feared the birth of mentally or physically impaired child. Regardless, Adolf Hitler remained the only son of his parents, and it's likely that his mother's attention was focused solely on him. German psychoanalyst Erich Fromm described Clara Hitler as a woman who was positive, sensible, and responsible. She dedicated her life to taking care of the home and children. Additionally, she raised 2 children from her husband's previous marriage. However, Clara Hitler never managed to escape her initial role as a maid, which he held in the household during the early years. Moreover, she looked up to her husband and referred to him as Uncle Alois until the end of her life. As for Adolf Hitler's father, biographer Rudolf Olden describes him as follows: "He was never in good relations with the people around him. However, he established a family dictatorship within his own home. He did not understand Adolf and terrorized him. If the old non-commissioned officer wanted the boy to come to him, he would whistle with his 2 fingers. It goes without saying that a father who calls his child with a whistle, as if calling a dog, had a bad influence on his son's character." Another instance of the raising of the son is repeatedly described in many biographies of Hitler. Once the future dictator read in a book that the ability of withstand pain stoically is a sign of courage, and the next time his father decided to beat him, he didn't utter a sound, and later he told his shocked mother that his father had struck him 32 times. As is known, during the era of fascism, all individuals who did not conform to Hitler's ideology were subjected to extermination. This included individuals with mental illnesses. It all began with the forced sterilization of mentally ill and intellectually disabled individuals in the Third Reich. To justify these sterilizations, the concept of moral feeble-mindedness was introduced. Anyone who did not conform to the party's ideals could fall into this category. In 1939, Hitler came to the conclusion that sterilization was not enough. Mentally deficient individuals were deemed economically burdensome to the state, since they required resources for their care and support. These people began to undergo the so-called euthanasia, which in reality was nothing but murder in gas chambers, specially equipped in psychiatric clinics. From declassified documents revealed in 2005, it became known that Hitler personally ordered the extermination of one of his relatives, his niece Alicia Fate. The reason was that Alicia suffered from schizophrenia. People with such an illness had no right to life. On December 1940, Alicia was killed in a gas chamber in Upper Austria. In 1943, the United States Office of Strategic Services compiled a psychological profile of Adolf Hitler to assess the potential behavior of the dictator, including post-war scenarios. Despite the absence of definitive statements in the report, all predictions turned out to be remarkably accurate. As the war turns against him, his emotions will intensify and outbursts will become more frequent. His public appearances will significantly decrease because he cannot address a critically inclined audience. There will be no surrender or peace negotiations. The path he will take is most likely a quest for ideological immortality, leading to the greatest revenge against the world he despises. Based on what we know about his psychology, it is highly probable that he will end his life through suicide in the event of defeat. He probably harbors an excessive fear of death, but as a psychopath, he may adopt the persona of the superhuman and commit this act. Besides these conjectures, the report suggested the hypothesis that Hitler concealed his homosexuality. This version of Hitler's sexuality is supported by German historian Lothar Magdan. He claims, although without substantial evidence, that Hitler had homosexual experience in Vienna involving his young friends and comrades. In 2002, the book The Pink Swastika discussed similar questions. However, the book contained many inconsistencies that did not allow for definitive conclusions about the dictator's sexuality. Alongside the speculations, there is also a list of Hitler's mistresses. There are at least 7 of them. 3 of them ended their lives by suicide. 2 other women had unsuccessful suicide attempts. Among Hitler's lovers was his niece, Gelle Raubal, the daughter of his sister Angela. According to the official account, Geli Raubal took her own life in Hitler's Munich apartment, where she lived with him. Hitler himself carefully concealed his personal life from the public and the press. Even his most enduring romance with Eva Braun, which lasted over 15 years, was meticulously hidden. Hungarian historian Miskolci Ambrosch believes that Hitler's apparent asexuality was merely a carefully staged image. Hitler used the persona of a bachelor to sway the broad masses of the female population to his side.